Hey, it's Drybear. If you're like me and you love the ship design and finding the right ship in Starfield, today I'm going to go through the best ships in Starfield separated by the class that they're in, as well as how to get them and where they're located. First, you should come hang out with me on my live stream. I'm live every single day on twitch.tv/Drybear. If you don't come hang out with me in the Twitch community, the next time you get up from your chair, it's going to make a farting noise, which you know isn't your fart, but everyone else is going to think that it is. Now, I've put together all of the ships that I've encountered in the game onto a single spreadsheet because I love spreadsheets. You guys know that. So I've put together all of their stats, their starting cost, their location where you buy them, the name of the ship, the class that they sit in, and all of their detailed stats, including a summary of their total attack and total defense, combining all of their stats together into one, so you could very easily compare the ships together. I'm not going to go through all the ships in the game. I'm just going to talk about the best ones that you have available throughout the story. But if you're looking for this sheet, I've made it public. It's down below in the description and down below in the comments if you want to use this for reference for when you're picking your ship in your Starfield playthrough. Also, keep in mind that ships can be modified freely in this game, and so this is going to talk about the base ship and include some opportunity for customization. A ship that may only have one major weakness you can very easily fix by modifying it is going to score higher on this list. Starting with my pick for the best Class A ship that you can get in the game is going to be the Star Eagle. This one is actually free. All you have to do is go to Aquila City and finish the Free Star Rangers quest line. This starts when you arrive. There is going to be a bank robbery. Follow that quest line all the way through, saving spoilers, and you will eventually get the Star Eagle. What's great about this ship is it is super powerful for being a Class A. It has a 29 reactor, a 5 crew, a high hull of 948, and a 912 shield, which is massive, 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 massive. And it also just has a lot of onboard systems that you can use for offense. Also one of the few ships in the game that comes with stock loaded and EM weapon, which is useful for disabling enemy ships and overall is just really well made. The next ship in Class A is going to be the Warwolf. And I think overall it's probably a better ship than the Star Eagle. However, it is quite expensive. This is one you can buy from Stroud Eklund. You go to the Stroud Eklund Star Yard and you can pick it up for a pretty sizable chunk of credits. But depending on how much you're farming, how much you're looting and selling, you can get the credits and get this picked up. I think this is probably my favorite overall Class A ship. It just costs you some credits in order to pick up. And by the time you get the credits, you may already be investing into getting Class B or Class C ships. So you might kind of pass it up. But if you know you're going to stop at Class A, you're not going to put any points into piloting, I would recommend saving up and picking up the Warwolf from Stroud Eklund because it's just insanely good. It has particle weapons, which are very good at breaking shields at any point in the game. It comes with ballistic weapons and missiles stock built in, which are easy to upgrade. It has a base crew of 5 and a base shield of 550 with a hull of 630. One of the hardest stats to raise is your shield, and having a decent shield value built into the ship when you first get it. You can replace just one, but you can only have one shield generator per ship, which means that having that limitation can be quite painful depending on what ship you've selected. The only downside with this ship really is that its base cargo capacity is really small. If you're someone who doesn't load much into your ship, I know I'm a loot goblin, so I like having lots of cargo. You can definitely either modify this. It has plenty of spots where you can stick extra cargo ports and a good reactor that can hold and lift up those cargo ports as well. Or you can just store a thing on an outpost or just not have to worry about it in general. Next on the list for A is the Marathon. It's a little bit cheaper than the Warwolf, but it has some nice bonuses that I think are worth picking up. Not only can you pick this up on Cydonia and Mars very early on in the game, you can fly straight there. I don't even think the Marathon has any player level requirements before it shows up in the shipyard vendor, the shipyard technician. So you can pick this up very easily. It has a nice balance of shielding and hull and fuel overall. A decent reactor with some decent weapons on it. The particle weapons will allow you to break shields. The missiles will allow you to destroy energy or like destroy parts on the enemy ship. So if you're able to take down the shields, you can burn them down with the missiles, which is all you really need to win in combat. And it comes stock loaded with a 1460 cargo. So this is probably the most well-rounded ship of the Class A's, and it's 159,000 credits base, so you can save up for it and get it. I think by just in general, if you're not someone who's farming a lot, the Star Eagle is probably easier just because it is free. You have to do a quest line, which you're going to get credits for anyway. But if you are willing to buy a ship, I think baseline, the Marathon is definitely in the top 5. Next for Class A is the ship that I purchased first in my first playthrough, the Econo Haul. This one is the easiest way to get a large amount of cargo capacity at the very beginning of the game. It costs just under 100k credits, which you can save up quite easily if you're doing missions, especially if you're picking things up like I am, like a loot goblin, and selling everything across vendors and saving up your money there. This one has two main weaknesses. One is that it's not free, but that's kind of aside there. But the two main weaknesses for this ship are going to be around its survivability and its offense. It is built for commercial uses. Overall, all of its stats are quite good for a Class A. Its reactor is a little weak, its crew is a little on the lower side, but the main problem with this ship is that it is not as durable as other ships, and the offense isn't super great. You do have decent particle weaponry stock on this ship, so if you get into a fight, you'll be able to burn through shields, but ballistic and missile wise, when you actually can hit the ship directly, the damage isn't as great, and it doesn't really survive against sustained fire, especially if you're playing on the higher difficulties. Now, you can modify this by putting more hull capacity on it, more shielding with an upgraded shield generator, and you can also put on new weapons for it. But the reason I like this ship and why I have it here on the list is if you're someone who cares most about the ship carrying capacity and the ability to put things in your ship and hold them so you can go about the story and do things, you don't really care as much about the space combat, you'll probably grab jump away. It has great grab jump base kit, and it does everything that you need it to do, save from being as good as the other ships on this list at space combat. The last ship I'll leave you for Class A is going to be the War Horse. You pick this up on Neon in the ship bay, so again, very easy to get to. The price is lower than most of the other ships on this list for a Class A, and it's pretty decent. It has a great reactor, decent hull, decent shielding, and it comes with most of the weaponry that you'd want in a fight. It has laser and particle weapons for burning down shields. It has decent missiles on board for destroying specific ship components on the enemy side and dealing decent damage overall. The only downside here really is that the crew capacity starts out pretty low at 2, which means you can only have 2 on board with you in order to move into the stars. But early on, you're not going to have a high crew capacity on ship anyways, and the cargo capacity is on the lower end. It's almost down as low as the Frontier is, which is the free ship that you start with, which is, to me, one of the worst ships in the entire game across the board. So this one's an easy pickup. You can fly to Neon, pick this up for a relatively easy price. It doesn't have the cargo capacity of the Econo Hull, but it does everything else pretty moderately. And if you're not wanting to save up for the Warwolf or rush the Star Eagle quest line to pick that one up, then this is definitely going to be the ship you want to look for. Now we're going to move on to Class B ships. If you don't already know that in order to pilot these, anyone can pilot a Class A ship. It's available for anyone. You don't need any skills or bonuses to pick it up. So if you're not going to put any points into the piloting skill in the tech tree, you can use all of the Class A ships, and that's why the ships on this list are as good as they are, is they'll get you through the entire game if you pick them up and use them without using any piloting skill. But if you want better ships, bigger ships with more capacity, more technology, and more offensive capability, then you want to get your piloting skill up in the game. Once you do rank 1, rank 2, and then finally to rank 3, you'll unlock the ability to pilot Class B ships, which is what we're about to talk about here. And then lastly, when you get to rank 4 by destroying enough enemy ships, you'll unlock Class C, which we'll talk about after all of the Class B ships on this list. Starting into Class B, if there was going to be a ship that I stopped my piloting skill at Class B and I didn't go any further, I would probably personally pick the Shieldbreaker. This one is easily picked up in any major shipyard. You can pick it up in New Atlantis, Jamaris very easily. You can pick it up for 251,000. So if you work on getting those credits up, you can very easily get this ship. The reason I like it overall is it's got everything. It's got a baseline 2,280 cargo capacity. It has insanely high hull. It has a good above average shield amount, a good ship, a great reactor. It has base 5 crew. It also has excellent laser weapons, one of the highest laser weapons you can get stock on any ship in the game. And then it also comes with great ship damaging offense with 28 ballistic and 58 missiles. So once you burn the shield off the enemy ship and you focus on it, the ballistic plus the missile is going to burn it right down, send it off into a fireball into space. And honestly, the only real downside to this ship is the price. Everything about it is excellent and very, very good. So again, if you're going to stop at Class B and not go any further, and you're not going to do the storyline side quests that give you the other ships, I think Shieldbreaker is your best bet. Next for B class, I want to talk about the Pelican. This is picked up inside Neon. You have to go all the way to the back and go to the Ryujin Industries building, go to the elevator and go up to the Taiyo Industries, the Taiyo Astroneering, which is their shipbuilding portion of their Ryujin Tower. And they are the best ship makers in the game by far, but they also charge some of the highest prices for it. So as we move further down this list, you'll see more of the Taiyo Engineering, Astro Engineering ships here on the list. But I think the Pelican is one of the best B ships to get in the game. Now, one thing to mention with this ship, a lot of ships in the game will have multiple variants of them depending on your player level. So if you go to Taiyo and you see that they have just the Pelican 1, it means that you have a lower player level. And when you level up and you come back, you will actually see the Pelican 2, which is an upgraded version of that. And this is true for many ships in the game. You can find upgraded second generation versions of them as your player level goes higher. And I actually am recommending the second Pelican that you can get from Taiyo. I'm not sure exactly what player level. It's not too high to unlock this one, but once you get it, it is a great ship to pick up. The reason I like this is it's relatively cheap for what you're getting. Relative to the other ships on this list, the cost per value is actually exceptionally high, even though it's coming from Taiyo. But what's great about it is it has default 3,300 cargo capacity, which has a lot of mass. Anytime you buy a ship that has a lot of mass, it's going to come stock with some great engines and a great reactor and ways to kind of keep itself afloat. And you can very easily add on to this ship to make it even better. It's got good base hull at 765 for Pelican 1. For Pelican 2, it's over 1,000. The cargo is 3,300 even for Pelican 1. And it comes with particle and ballistic weapons, and you can add in a third weapon once you have the cash to upgrade on that as well. But the main reason why I like it is it's cost effective for what you're getting, and the platform itself leaves plenty of room for you to add additional aspects to it. Because of the way it's shaped and because of the way it's designed, you can put on extra cargo, you can put on extra engines, you can put on extra value to the ship very easily without having to get super clever about how you're placing those modules. Next in B class, I want to include the only Deimos ship that I'm going to include in this list because I think it is quite good. Now, there is a Class C ship from Deimos Staryard that you unlock later in the game once you get your character level high enough, if you can progress enough. But by the time you unlock that Deimos ship, I feel like there's so many better options that I just couldn't include it in this list. However, I will be including the Aegis because I think the Aegis is an excellent ship and you can very easily pick this up. If you don't know, Deimos is the moon on Mars, the moon outside of Mars. There's a star yard right there. So right when you go to the Sol system, which you can do at the very beginning of the game, you can come here and pick up the Aegis at the star yard. Now, what I love about this ship is it has most of the things you'll want out of a base ship before you start modifying. It has excellent fuel. It has good hull and good shield base. You can upgrade the shield generator or add a little bit more hull if you want to increase the mass of the ship. Overall, the maneuverability is great on this one, but even better is going to be its offensive capability. For a stock ship, this is one of the best, like off the star yard roll, one of the best offensive capabilities of any ship that you can purchase from a shipyard in general. It has base 20 laser, which is great for destroying shields, and then base 96 ballistic and 68 missile, which means once that shield is down, the ships you're fighting are not going to last very long at all. And once you have ship targeting as well, you can very easily blow up their engines or blow up their shields, disable their offensive capabilities. Sky's the limit with this ship. It also has a decent reactor for a B class, and the cargo capacity is the weakest part of it. But again, the design itself makes it easy to add on extra cargo. You can easily get this cargo capacity from 200 all the way up to 2,000 or 2,500, even without modifying the shape of the ship, by just adding cargo containers onto it for a relatively cheap price. Next, let's talk about the over-designed quest line. This is one of the better B-class ships, but I actually am not going to recommend that you go for it because it is an opportunity cost. Once you've progressed about 30% through the main campaign, you will get a quest from Walter Stroud from Stroud Eklund to go follow along his quest line. And once you go far enough, you'll unlock this quest, the over-designed quest line, which he will ask you to go to the Stroud Eklund Star Yard and help his design team create a ship. Now, there's not really many choices you have to make that are important here, but during the quest line, the designers of the ship are going to ask you a very important question. Should we use a small budget for this ship, or should we use a kitchen sink, get everything in there budget? If you choose small budget in the dialogue, you will get a free ship later on at the end of the quest called the Kepler S, which is the smaller B-class version of this ship. If you decide that you want to go for the bigger ship, you can tell them you want the bigger budget, tell them the big budget is the best, and you'll get the Kepler R, which is the C-class version of the ship. No matter which one you choose, he'll give you the first one off the line, which means you get it for free. You just have to progress far enough in the campaign and you get this here. So this is the B-class version if you tell the designers that they should go for the smaller budget. Now, as a base platform, this ship isn't bad, and the fact that you can get it for free is pretty awesome. It's a pretty expensive ship if you were to just go buy it, so being able to save those credits is nice, and then you can use those credits to modify the ship. But it is kind of just a framework. It doesn't come stock with any weapons. You'll have to add weapons onto it, which can be expensive, and you'll have to think about how you'll place those weapons as well. But you could potentially take the Kepler S that you get for free and put very expensive weaponry on it and have an excellent ship. It has decent hull, below average shield for a B class. The reactor is below average for a B class as well, and stock only has about 3 crew options on top of that. But the stock cargo starts at 3,200, and it's pretty easy to add cargo modules to this ship as well. So overall, because it's free, it gets knocked up on the list, and I am including it in my top 5 for B class. But just keep in mind that if you are going to be going to fully maxed out pilot skill and go to C, I would recommend going for the higher budget version in the quest to get the Kepler R, because I do believe that it is superior. The last ship on my list for B class is going to be the Pterosaur. This one you can get right at the beginning of the game, and it's one of the ships that upgrades and gets better and better with different offerings and new additions as you go through and progress the story of the game and as you raise up your player level. This ship is awesome. I love the platform. I love the inside. I love the cockpit. Everything's laid out in a really clean and easy way. It's easy to modify and put new modules on based on the shape of it, and it comes with great shielding off the kit. It has good hull capacity as well, and it has a nice balance between laser weaponry, ballistic, and missiles that allow you to fight most ships in the entire game and fight in any combat scenario. On top of that, it has base crew 5. I think even on Pterosaur 1, the first edition of it, which you can get at the start of the game, and the cost of it for how much you're getting, how much ship you're getting, is insanely effective, which is another reason why I have it on this list. I think the baseline one is in the mid 150s for credit count, which you compare that to some of the C class and even the other B classes on this list, is exceptionally effective for the amount of money you're spending to pick up this baseline ship. And lastly, let's go into the big boys, the queens and kings of the ship world, the Class C ships. Keep in mind, you do have to max out your piloting skill in order to be able to pilot these ships, but they are the best in the game. And I think, honestly, if you want to make your game kind of super cruisy, focus on just doing side quests early on, level up, get your piloting to rank 4, pick up one of these Class C ships, and then you can spend the rest of the game without having to worry about your ship at all, because you'll have one of the best in the business. Starting with my main ship, the ship that I use now exclusively, to me is the best ship in the entire game for every possible reason, the Narwhal. This is easily one of the most expensive, if not the most expensive base ships to buy from a dealer in the game, but it was 1000% worth it. You pick this one up at Tayo Astroneering in Ryujin Tower, Ryujin Industries, and you can get this base loaded. But what's great about this ship is it has one of the highest hull values out of any ship in the game without pushing the mass too high. So when your shields go down, your hull is an absolute unit. Very difficult to destroy this ship. The shield generator that it comes with is near 1,000, which is one of the best in the entire game. And it comes with one of the highest stock laser output for shield breaking, ballistic output, and missile output for offense, which means there's no ship in the entire game that can stand against you when it comes to offense. On top of that, it has the cutting edge reactor. It is the only ship that I've found in the game that has a reactor score of 36, which means it can jump easily. It can go at top speed all the time, anywhere you want to go. And off the factory floor, it has a crew size of 7, which means you can fit all of your companions in this ship. You can fill it up and have a party. The layout is very clean and easy to walk through. And another thing I love about this ship is it uses the pulse laser turret, the Blaze Ps. stock, and you don't really have to replace these. But what's great about these is these are auto-firing weapons, which means you never have to fire your laser weaponry as long as the enemy ship is above the midpoint of your ship. These will fire on their own endlessly. You don't have to worry about it at all. That'll break shields, and then you can focus on using the targeting systems to destroy the enemy ships using your ballistic weaponry and your missiles. On top of that, because it has the best reactor in the game, you can distribute extra power anywhere you want. You have fully maxed out power distribution, which means if you want to go full grab drive, full shield, engines, lasers, weaponry, it doesn't matter. You have extra power to distribute as freely as you want because it has such a massive reactor in the back. The only real downside with this, for it being the best ship in the game, is that it has a little bit lower on the fuel side, which is easy to counteract. And the starting cargo for all the other stats being as excellent as they are is about 1700. But as you can see, you very easily can modify that to be just as high as any other ship in the game, especially with the layout that it comes with. Next on the list for C-Class, I have to put the Abyss Trekker. I find it funny that all of the Paradiso ships, which is supposed to be a resort, island resort area on a resort planet, it's supposed to be peaceful and fun-loving. Most of their ships have some of the best offensive capabilities in the entire game, and the Abyss Trekker is no exception. This is a C-Class ship that doesn't have the best in most stats. The cargo capacity is baseline 340, which is less than the starting ship that you get. Pretty horrible. The crew size at 6 is pretty good for a C-Class ship. And the hull and the shield are about average for C-Class overall. And then you got a decent jump and a pretty decent reactor as well. But the main reason why you'd pick up the Abyss Trekker is that it comes stock with some of the best weaponry that you can get in the entire settled systems. This thing is an absolute monster in a combat fight in space. You can destroy any ship that comes across your way, including some of the main campaign ships that are a little bit harder. It has baseline 38 particle weapons. Particle weapons are my favorite for destroying shields. And then it has 96 missile and 162 ballistic off the factory floor. It is a pretty long ship, but it's underneath the minimum requirement to land on a planet. So it's very easy to just get moving and go from planet to planet with it. And the shape and layout of it is a little weird, but you can use it to modify it to add other modules on it if you know what you're doing. So if all you care about, or what you care about most, is the offensive capability, go to Paradiso, pick up the Abyss Trekker. You won't regret it. Next for C-Class is the Kepler R. And we talked about already the over-designed quest line that you get from Stroud Eklund. This is the option of the ship that you'll get if you tell them to go big or go home, go for the biggest budget possible, make the biggest ship possible. It'll end up giving you a free C-Class. And the reason it's on this list, not only because it's free, you don't have to pay for it, you just have to finish the quest line and you'll get this ship in your fleet right away, but also it comes with basically everything. It has good stats in every possible category: offense, defense, hauling, hull, fuel capacity, decent reactor, crew capacity, layout inside the ship, and everything in between. The only downside really is that it comes with only 2 weapons instead of 3. You can see you can very easily add in a missile weapon system like I have to mine and make it offensive just like any other, the best C-Classes in the game. That's all there really is to say about the ship. It's just good in every possible way. There's not an area that this ship is deficient in that you can't really use it for. It's easy to modify. It comes with everything you need. And it's free, so how could it possibly not be one of the best choices for you? And remember, if you want this ship for free in the over-designed quest line, tell them to go for the big budget, you'll get the Kepler R. If you tell them to go for the small budget, you'll get the Kepler S, which is the B class we talked about earlier. Next for C class, I have to include the Stronghold. This one you can pick up in Aquila City, and at certain points of the story, it's available in other star yards or in star ports as well. So you can easily pick this one up. It does have a base cost of just over 300,000 credits, but it's awesome. And the overall systems for this is incredible. Like most ships that only come stock with 2 different weapons, every ship can be modified to get a 3rd weapon slot. So you can add that on to increase the offensive firepower. But one of my favorite parts about the Stronghold is its massive, insane, busted OP shield generator. It has the best shield generator in the game out of any ship. And you can also run with the perks that increase your shield generation and put more power into your shields. And you can have insanely powerful shields on top of that. It doesn't have the best hull. The Narwhal has over double the amount of hull base that the Stronghold has, but but it can't compete with the shield capacity of the Stronghold. So if you like leaning more into the shield aspect of defense in space combat and you want to use the perks that utilize that, you can fully max out the shield capacity and the repairing, making sure that everything stays stable. And the Stronghold's a great choice for that. The layout on it is a pretty weird as ships go. The cockpit's pretty cool, but in general, I think the big choice for this is just going to be the defense and the overall weight of this ship specifically. Stock, it has very good laser weaponry for destroying shields, and it has kind of average ballistic weaponry, and then a missing third weapon slot, which you can modify and put in something else like missile weaponry if you want to. The cargo's okay, but the layout of the ship is easy to modify. You can add more cargo modules on this if you want very easily. This is definitely one of the better ships to pick up if you do want to do a lot of custom work to make the ship especially the way that you want it. Just keep in mind that the Stronghold by default is pretty heavy, which means you will need powerful engines if you add more weight to the ship overall to keep it airborne and moving through the sky. The last ship I'll include on the official list is going to be the Vanquisher. This ship overall is just over 300,000 credits when you first find it. But the reason why I like this ship, aside from its stats, is it's one of the few Class C ships that you can get access to almost immediately. It doesn't have a high player level requirement. It doesn't have a story or quest line requirement. You can go straight to the Sidonium Mars Star Yard or Starport and buy this ship right away. So you can start the game, do side missions, get money, and buy this ship. There's no other major requirements, which I think makes it very, very accessible and pretty awesome as well. It also comes stock with a cargo capacity of 4,120 base. It's easy to modify based on the shape of it. It has decent hull, good shield, a high crew, a decent reactor, and of course, some good offense as well. It has laser and particle weaponry for destroying shields, and then powerful, powerful missile systems for destroying the ship once the shields are down. Based on the shape of it, I colored it red and I nicknamed it the Brick House because this thing is just a giant brick. It is so fat and wide, and you can see it from almost anywhere when you're near a starport and it's docked because it's just that big. And you can actually see it when you go inside. It has one of the most spacious interiors of any ship in the game because it's so dang big. If you like having massive engines and massive reactor push with a big ship with a lot of interior for space for you to build things and store things, a lot of cargo right off the factory floor, and good overall stats for you, then I would recommend the Vanquisher. I wanted to end the video with some special mentions, ships that were close to making the list but didn't, or just have something unique about them that you want to be aware of. But I think that they're not as good as the ships that we listed for each of the classes. And the first one is going to be one that gets talked about a lot, and that is the Razorleaf, which is a free ship, a Class A ship that you get from completing the Mantis questline, which is available nearly at the beginning of the game. Now, if you ask me, as far as a ship goes, I actually think this ship is pretty freaking bad, like hot garbage relative to the starter ships in the game. The stats on it are not great. It's just meh or okay in almost every category, and it really isn't that easy for modifying or adding things onto it. I think it's very easy to get way better ships in the game, including the Star Eagle, which is also free and also an A-class ship in the game. But I think it requires a special mention because it does have a passive effect that no other ship in the game has, in that when you are taking the mantle of being the Mantis, which is essentially Space Batman, a vigilante that fights evildoers outside of the law. When people see the Razorleaf, it is a known thing and they'll freak out and see, oh God, it's Space Batman. And sometimes ships will just run away from you because of the way your ship looks. Now, overall, is this worth, in my opinion, for having a ship that I think is worse than most of the other ships? I would say no, but if it's something you like thematically and you want to take the time to modify the ship to make it better, I think it is an okay ship to get. It just has a low crew capacity. The overall stats aren't great. The hull is not great. The cargo capacity isn't great. The weaponry is okay in general, and that's about it. It does have some shielded cargo that you can use for contraband, but there are places where you can go to sell contraband that don't require getting scanned anyway. So in my opinion, shielded cargo is not really all that important. I also give special mention to the New Game Plus ship. So spoiler warning, if you do this, if you complete the main campaign and decide to go New Game Plus, you will get the Starborn Guardian, which is overall a really good ship. I think it's a ship that's excellent to start with in a New Game Plus with all those extra details. It has unique weaponry that you can only find on the Starborn Guardian, which is the solar weaponry, and the gravity torpedoes, which are super strong and easy. It's very fast. The engines are insanely strong. It has great fuel and excellent hull and shielding for a Class A ship, one of the best in the game. But of course, you have to finish the game in order to get access to the ship, which is why I didn't want to include it in the main list for the spoiler warning, as well as the fact that you have to complete the game before you can even get access to this ship in the first place. And I'll leave you with the last special mention, which is all of the Pirate Crimson Fleet ships. The reason I didn't want to include any of the Crimson Fleet ships in the main list is for two reasons. One is it's very story dependent, which means that you have to do the Crimson Fleet actions. And for some reason, you have to choose between those in many key moments in the story. It is possible, I think, to do Crimson Fleet and also be good aligned with some of the things that you do, depending on how you move around the story and who you have with you. But I just wanted to kind of separate these out, as you do have to go through the Crimson Fleet process in order to gain access to these ships. And on top of that, keep in mind that the 4 main companions that you can gain affinity with, if you're looking to romance them or get high affinity with them, all of them are good aligned for some reason. There's no evil companion in the game. And so if you're doing Crimson Fleet quest and you have them with you, it's very possible that you're going to lose affinity for having them with you when you're doing those actions. And in general, I don't think a lot of the Crimson Fleet ships are all that great. They're pretty cool. They have some nice interiors and they have decent kind of layouts, but I think stat-wise and availability, I think most of the official ships that you can get either through other quest lines or through the major star yards are going to beat out the Crimson Fleet in general. But I did want to include it because some of them are pretty cool, like the white's pretty cool, has nice layout, nice space, decent offense, and it does come with EM weapons, which most ships don't come with in general. And that's all I got for you today. I hope this helps you choose your ship and helps you understand the ships that are in the game. I know there's ships that I probably missed in the list, so if there are some, toss those down in the comments and I'll include them on the doc for other people to find as well. And of course, if you found value in the video, leave a like down below, leave a comment for the algorithm to help this video get seen by more people, and I'll see you on my live stream. If you enjoyed yourself today, leave a like down below. You can support me and my work on Patreon and view Patreon exclusive content, link in the description. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I'll see you in the next one.